Hello, hello, and welcome to the Beth of Fresh Air, April 10, 2026. Super, super glad to be here. And I also have a great surprise. Mr. Micah Ellers is going to be joining us for this conversation. Give me a thumbs up. I can see you're in the back. Yeah, you're ready to go. Excellent. Hello and welcome, Micah. So great to see you.
Hi, great to be back.
Yeah, really good. I just realized I've got a wrong identity. We've been talking a lot of identity this last week, and we can't get the wrong identity. People get the wrong idea. So good. All right. Welcome, Michelle. I'm glad you're here. Welcome, Micah. If you're not familiar with Micah Ellers, he is a filmmaker, a teacher, an expert in Gurdjieff's work. And without him, I wouldn't have been able to spend any time. I know I literally would have got 5 minutes into Beelzebub's tales to his grandsons and just gone, oh, okay, like that's, I literally would have put it in the same category as the Bible and walked away. Which is, yeah. Did you ever spend any time with the Bible, Micah?
A lot. Grew up
Okay.
with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
big time. Many read it more than once, all the way through. Lots of time with the Bible. Yep.
Right. By the way, is my background noise too strong?
No.
No. Okay, good. I'm distilling water and I really need water. So
I don't hear anything at all. It's filtered out. Whatever.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Good. At times it's come through. So let's see who's in the chat. Ms. Jackie K is here and Eliza. Lovely to see you. And the biological robot sent you down a rabbit hole. Okay, I'm not sure what that is, but that happens. And that's actually a big part of our topic today. We're going to be talking about pattern interrupts. And I was genuinely excited about this topic. It is my favorite topic. And Miss Maya is in the room. We got the whole team here for the, I believe maybe everybody but one in the House of Free Will. No pressure, Jackie. And yeah, so this topic is fantastic. And I wanted to, this is something that, for example, Micah, do people like pattern interrupts?
Like people other than maybe you and I?
Yeah.
No, it's normally not. The whole point is that it is jarring, shocking, it's painful, by design, because we don't like to have our patterns interrupted.
Exactly. Yeah, it actually brings my mind right to the rebel archetype, and I'm right now literally feeling the pride of the rebel. It's so distinct, and rebels are ones that are more likely to invite the pattern interrupt or try to make trouble consciously or unconsciously to create that pattern interrupt. So they tend to like them. But I notice that when they come, there's no lack of, it's not like, oh, yay, this is happening to me. It's right. It's suffering.
It's suffering. Yeah. It's like bad weather. You can prepare for it, but it's not fun.
Exactly. You can accept it, but it is, yeah, it's going to be a hardship. Exactly. Yeah, interrupt for Gurdjieff would be a shock. Yeah, that's exactly how he terms that. So I'm starting to adopt that. You'll notice that, you know what, my favorite thing from Gurdjieff, of course, the most important of all is self-remembering. And this is a phrase that I have in my mind. It is, and it's become a kind of Pavlovian stimulation for some release work and like, who am I and who am I being and am I present? So yeah, that's a really beautiful thing. And we're going to go deep into this pattern interrupt. How would you describe that? Like, what's actually happening in a pattern interrupt?
I think at every level there's a different experience. So the simplest way would be like, if you just think purely like go into like the body, which would be the moving instinctive part of the three centers in the Gurdjieff work. We all have, it's imperative that we mechanically train and develop our bodies to automate things. They already automate things based on instinct, like your heartbeat or your breathing, right? On a simple level, what happens when we interrupt someone's heartbeat? They, it's a jarring. I mean, physically, it's disturbing, right? You take away someone's breath very quickly. That creates so at a very autonomic level, it's disruptive because the system is built to do it and monitor it and maintain it. But then beyond that, like when your entire existence is basically delegating most of the stuff off to the mechanical machine robot part of yourself. Um, we're so addicted and used to that the moment that it's not happening, it feels it's almost alien to us. And it's kind of like the way when someone's walking, if you do like a walking meditation where you really pay attention to every single sensation that your body is having, every movement, every muscle fiber, the way that the air feels or the sun on your skin, the sound, you will start to walk very weird very quickly. And it will feel quite odd because you're bringing now consciousness to something that had been surrendered to automation a long, long time ago. And so whenever we do that, because it's like, I think, okay, just like from a biological standpoint, it's a great survival mechanism to not have to put any thought into most of the stuff that you do, because that could cause stress. It's going to take up resources that could be used solving other problems, interpersonal type stuff, strategy. So we're hardwired to repeat things. And I think sometimes I wonder about this, like if you take a common trait of autistic people is they can't handle any pattern interruption. It causes immense distress. And it kind of makes me wonder if we're not all that same way. They just don't have any tolerance at all. Like maybe we're having to freak out too. We've just developed a little bit more tolerance to it. Whereas to them, you're getting that raw, pure like shock and the pain of it every single time.
Exactly. Yeah. Autistic people or children that have no filter whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you shock them. They think they're going here and they're not going there. And it's a shock. They flip out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was Lester Levinson, who is where I've adapted a lot of work from in the deprogramming side of things. He would say, I know I've told you this, but for other people, just say, he would say that that's how programming got started, is that so many things needed to be on automation for survival, like you already said.
Yeah.
And we just went too far.
Yeah.
There became a mechanism. Oh, automate this, automate that, automate this, automate that. Potentially trying to free up, like you said, for more important problem solving and development, and never mind, humanity and connection and all of that kind of thing. And then, it just ended up mostly all on automation.
That's why it feels like you're dying, because if you stop breathing very quickly, it's going to send a distress signal. We're so comfortable and addicted to everything, in fact, being automated, that it in fact feels like a death. I mean, it feels, and even though it won't kill you, that's the thing, is it just feels like it will, right?
Exactly. Real or not. So as a small example from yesterday, I have a little disagreement with my landlord going on. God bless him. I'm sure he doesn't watch my podcast, but and somebody was trying to reach me on WhatsApp, where he had recently sent me a nasty note, and I saw this like notification, and it showed me his old text. Sometimes your phone will pick up something old; it thinks you hadn't seen it, and that was sort of true.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mind went to like, okay, this is it. Like maybe the war is on, or I have to leave, or it would definitely shocked me, got the nervous system going, and started the release work and talking to a friend and developing a strategy and writing a letter. And then I go back to the text, because now I'm a little braver. I'm actually going to open the app, and I realize he didn't text me at all. It's still hanging in the ethers the way we left it about 3 weeks ago. But the illusion of him simply texting me brought this whole thing into play, right? So I don't think we ever necessarily become immune to those shocks. And here's one of the things I wanted to get into is, I think there can be a spiritual misunderstanding that we are here to get over the shocks and have shocks not affect us, and to be, what are they word? To have equanimity.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. So what's your take on that? And then flow state, right? There's this high prize for flow state, which means no interruption.
Well, my take on that would be that you're you're in the right direction. That a lot of times, like the new age type thinking is equanimity. I don't care, I'm removed from outcome no matter what. I'm neutral. It's very much like kind of what Buddhism turned into, like this idea of just totally being absent and removed. That's not conductive to growth. Growth requires resistance and shock. And so, like, I know from, from like a fourth way perspective, it actually gets harder as you get more skilled, because it gets harder to shock yourself. It gets
Right.
harder to even have those shocks. So they have to become more crafty. They have to become more potent and more, timed appropriately. So, but they're considered the key ingredient for going up in the octave. You can't get from, like we talked about, do re mi. You can't get from mi fa in an octave of development without a shock. And there's two in every octave. And it's like without them, then things go into entropy and they decay. So it takes conscious suffering to do that. So that would be something to actually move towards, not away from.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So this high price for the flow state, it is nice when it happens. And
But so is
yeah,
rest, right? We still need rest.
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
We must
Yes.
breathe. It's breath, right? It's like the breath in and out. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, breath is another good example of you mentioned the walking when you go into really conscious walking, it's awkward. Same with breathing. When you're fully conscious of your breath, it's like,
Yep.
where's that breath going? Oh, there's another one. It's coming now.
Mhm.
To pay attention again. And yeah, it brings about that and yeah, this is one of the laws that we're dealing with, that everything here on earth it goes through entropy, decays, and dissolves without some kind of interruption, some kind
Yeah.
of what I might call new decision or awareness that energy is required there. Is there anything you to add there?
Well, let's see, the inserting of the energy, and it has to be conscious, right? At that exact right time, things only decay. So it's becoming aware that that's designed in the universe. In the in the book, in Beelzebub's Tales, that you're reading right now, there's a part mentioned where the law of octaves kind of changed at one point, where there became the need for the shocks, whereas they used to just be perfectly divided sevenths, and then the system was changed structurally, which causes things to become more chaotic, but at the same time it allows you to actually bring your consciousness in to participate in a way, um, because it's harder. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
it gets your attention, right? Like it brings some resistance or obstacle.
Yes, and let's see. Trying to think of the word. Uh, It'll come to me. Um, Anyway, it'll pop up in a minute, and I'll get back into that. But yes, so the idea is that we participate by the intentional suffering, which is, it's not suffering like we've talked about in the sense of driving a nail through your hand for the sake of pain. It doesn't mean that. It's not pain. Pain is not intentional suffering. It's going against mechanicalness. It's that will, bringing higher will to change something. And kind of this isn't the exact analogy, but think about mankind with agriculture or animal husbandry. Through our conscious intention, using the laws of nature, we were able to change like wild animals into domesticated ones and create lots of variation. So that was something that we did. We were given nature and a certain set of laws, but becoming aware of how they worked within breeding and selection, look what we were able to do. I mean, think about how many different dogs there are and how most of them don't resemble wolves at all. I mean, what, like, you look at a Dachshund, a little wiener dog, or you look at it's like it's so far gone and so far altered. and I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's showing you the power of intention and consciousness working within another structure. Is you are beginning to craft or become a steward of reality in a way, and in a much more important way is what we'd be doing in our inner world with our inner animals, right? Our inner plants and animals, so to speak. that kind of gardening and cultivating. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to go back to what you said. Pain is not intentional suffering. And I think this might be a big trap for spiritual people. Like if you glom on, and I'm starting to question myself now too, but so how would you describe the difference between garden variety pain and intentional suffering?
So garden variety pain is mechanical. You get hit, you stub your toe, it hurts, right? Um, an example of intentional suffering might be, even in that moment, to identify it and to choose to take the energy out of the identification of, like, even with just the pain itself, not putting the sense of I into it. Beginning, like, that would be an example that causes suffering because it's very difficult. But so intentional suffering is almost like suffering the way of labor. Like when you build a business, you're going to have to suffer. It doesn't mean like you've got a cat of nine tails and you're whipping your back, but it might mean putting in extra hours, not having the fun that you wanted to have, not getting to relax, and which is a type of suffering. I mean, even working out is a type of intentional suffering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get what we have to do that, or we get no results, right? In the gym, you get absolutely no results. So like when you see the two people on the elliptical, talking on their iPads for 45 minutes. I mean, their ego got something from it, I guess. They got to have a little bit of joy. Maybe they looked good in their new workout suit or something with their headband or something, but they didn't actually pay the price of the intentional suffering. And that's a law baked into our reality. So if you want to create something or change it at any level, it requires that, including the spiritual awakening part.
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. When you're I'll often turn on something in the background when I work out, and I know that it is partly a desire to distract, or just maybe the ability, knowing I also have a mind and I don't really need it while I'm working my body, except to maybe count some repetitions. Even then, I don't need the whole brain for that. And so I will listen now. So that's not very intentional suffering in a way. Do you think that it takes away from the physical benefit of that?
Yeah, it to a degree. I mean, you're talking about when something's kind of like it's watered. It's like half-assed or watered down suffering, right? Is that kind of how you mean it? Like you're not fully. You're
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Like
It's like. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm listening to Gurdjieff, but I'm working out, and I can, it's not that I lose touch with my body by any means. I can still feel it, but
So it's not bad per se, but it is taking some of the mindfulness away from the workout. But that doesn't mean you're not getting a workout.
Mm-hmm.
Like that might be your better choice. You're like, well, I want to learn, I want to read this audiobook or listen to this podcast. If you can still do, maybe it cuts 10% of your workout. I mean, a highly dedicated like bodybuilder would be more dedicated to feeling every muscle fiber and all that. What's more important to you? It might be that you have a limited amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though, that commonly within the whole scope of the fourth way, the idea was to stop multitasking as much as possible, to become more intentional when you're eating to eat, when you're speaking to speak.
Yeah.
And the reason that's good is we're so used to not doing that. We're so used to thinking about something in the back of our mind while we're talking to someone, you know what I mean? And then we might also be multitasking at the same time. So
Totally.
there's not full presence there. There's not full energy there. The charge is lower. So it's more like in our world has conditioned us to do that. Like you kind of have to do it. Like from your corporate background, you kind of have to, right? You can't function in this world very well without it. So that's where this idea of the fourth way being practiced in life, because life is automatically so mechanical and so difficult to overcome. So it becomes the workout is, can you bring consciousness fully as much as possible in an ordinary circumstance, which is much harder than you might need to think.
Right, right. Yeah, I like your bringing up multitasking. There's a big difference, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed between men and women and multitasking.
Well, that's
Yeah,
been proven. I mean, that's like hard science, I think.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've tested that when I had my newborn when Liam was little, and I was trying to do many things at one time. I've got the infant in one hand, and I'm maybe cooking or cleaning or trying to look after myself or go to the bathroom. And I noticed when I hit more than 9 things at one time, I would fall down. Like there would be like the whole thing would just collapse entirely. So I can see what you're talking about. How you're shaving off the consciousness with every other task that you're adding to that mix, and then all of a sudden there's no consciousness at all, and there's no control.
Right. And I would say this 9 is pretty good. I think they said that average woman is capable of 7. I can max out at 1.5. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and such a gift in a way that men can have that laser focus. And I will, just as an exercise sometimes, I will, instead of watching something while I have a meal on my own, I will just eat, or only
Mhm.
exercise, only this and only that. And but it becomes a time efficiency just to be able to combine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you notice it's uncomfortable though when you do?
Right,
It
exactly.
feels it that's like almost an intentional suffering of a sort because you're like, what am I? It feels odd. It's an off-putting sensation.
Yeah.
It feels out of place and awkward. Like you want something to relieve you of the it's like dead silence in a room. It feels like that. Like, what am I doing? I'm just eating, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, eating is an interesting one because it's so classically a shared experience.
Hmm.
It's literally communion, and it's how we
Yeah.
discover a certain level of oneness between us. And so I think I'm going to practice that going through the suffering of eating on my own, which happens a lot. I also share meals with my son and friends sometimes, but yeah, that would be a good exercise just to go through that discomfort more so.
Yeah, and it's not like a set of it's not like a rule that you have to do this. It's the idea that you're becoming aware of how much you're not applying your consciousness in your life, how much you see, like you to become painfully aware of that so you can realize, wow, I'm mostly mechanical and automated most of the time and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and especially with distractions, we want to listen to something. A lot of people can't do anything without music. And I'm not saying that that's bad. However, what is it distracting you from? And I've been extremely guilty of that. Like I've had somebody that's always had to learn a listening to something, usually educational or news or something. But then sometimes that's not really productive. It's like really it's distracting some part of you from suffering in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sound like a couple of weirdos over here, which
Well,
I'm totally
if
fine
the
with.
shoe fits, right? Yeah.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just going to go back to a few chats here.
Yep.
And yeah. Oh, here, Diane, welcome. You're saying that you thought you're aiming for a life of flow and along comes interrupt shock. And thank you for that. Appreciate it. I know it's inside out, upside down. People literally lust for their flow state, and they're trying with all their might to get it and to have it and keep it once you have it.
Yeah.
So I was in that trap for a while too. And the fact is, like, every nice experience when it comes, every easy experience, every uninterrupted experience, it can be received with grace. It's not like you have to go, oh, bad and terrible. But at the same time, I was releasing with a partner this morning, and there was a couple of things. We actually have a list that I posted for anyone that did Creator Code. You have a list of 48 not Gurdjieff laws
Mhm.
that are governing over us. And then a few of them, it was like, yeah, actually, I've worked on that a lot. I think I'm okay with it. And oh yeah, there's some acceptance. And then you pop the lid off the acceptance, and it's like huge amounts of suffering sitting there waiting
Mhm.
to be seen, to be felt, and to be released. And massive breakthroughs, even in where the flow state itself. If you're really brave, let that go too, and
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's good. Yeah, we mentally tell ourselves we're okay and at peace with a lot. when in fact it's just a mental acknowledgement. It's it's a clever trick that we play on ourselves, like, oh, I'm okay with my death, or I'm okay with, like, but we're actually not, and so this is where in the work of the fourth way, the first one of the first things you're supposed to practice vehemently is to stop lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Not to others, just to you. Can you stop lying to you? It's much harder. Like, you have no chance of stop lying to other people. You might as well, like, because if you're full of lies to yourself, you can't even be honest in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you go into that whole mechanical way of being. Jackie K said, "Can someone recommend a channel where you can listen to the work of Gurdjieff?" So you pointed me, Micah, towards that first book, In Search of the Miraculous.
Yeah, which is free on YouTube. There are some channels of people that comment on it. I mean, many people have tried. There's not a specific one that I would recommend. There are several. I would say start with the books. Just start with the books, and then if you find people that talk about it, but it would be better to start with the books. In Search of the Miraculous is just, I think, the easiest start, because, and you've listened to that, Beth. Another good one would be, if you want to get a little more nuts and bolts, The Fourth Way, which was also a P.D. Ouspensky book, which really more definitively defines the basic concepts. If you're feeling adventurous, you can do Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, but I would say it's heavy lifting. I mean, Beth could chime in on her experience of that, I'm sure. But there are many. I mean, there are many. If you want to know what it was like for someone to work with him directly, my favorite firsthand account, especially from like introductory, would be A Pupil's Journal by C.S. Knott. Fantastic story of a young man going to the chateau and working with him, and what that was like. It's like a linear, just easy to read experiential tell. It's really, really good. But there's tons of stuff. I mean, there are many. I'm not saying these are the best things. I'm just saying this is the best place to start, in my opinion. Yeah.
Right. It's easy to misunderstand, right? You take these concepts, and for people that take it upon themselves to be the, interpreter of that knowledge, they can easily go wrong with it, because there's so many things. It's the same thing with my work, that you can come in and make assumptions that just aren't true there. So,
and you just do damage to yourself then, because you start to because you can use it to deceive yourself quite easily. Just like how, like, with say the concept of self-observation, you can turn that outside of yourself to become extremely judgmental of people.
Oh yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I saw them become mechanical. I could see their eyes switch. And the problem is you're partially right about that. But what does that do then? That gets it out of the work was supposed to be aimed on you. And now it's turning into feeding your false personality, which is very dangerous, which can lead to like the calcification of it. And it can take you down a dark path of kind of getting permanently stuck. So you have to be, there's many ways, just like with your work, you can misconstrue it. And it could be harmful because you decided to take it the wrong way.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to respond. Just have to get my thread back about. Can you repeat a little bit what you just said? It was a good one.
Just now?
Yeah.
Okay. When we about applying the work incorrectly, like outside of yourself. So like, if you come,
yes.
Yeah. So like one of the big traps would be, and a lot of times for years, I never told anybody about this at all, because I found, like, I was like, man, I really wanted to understand it. And then I could see that it was so potent that it wasn't going to be for everyone. And then I would experiment sometimes and feel like I should share this with someone. And I would say 90% of the time, the person gets impressed or shocked very quickly in the work. It could be reading The Fourth Way or the In Search of or something, and they're just a couple of chapters in, and they're having these profound aha moments. And then all of a sudden they think they understand, which is the biggest mistake you could make, is to think you understand it. And then they start trying to teach it or use it on other people, or they start calling other people mechanical or asleep, and you're like, no, you are asleep, right? And it's
Right, exactly. Yeah, they had a word for that in India. This is what I was going to chime in. It's called sattvic conditioning. So of the three forces of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, Rajas being action, Tamas being inertia, and Sattva being lightness. Lightness we could talk about being the high side of programs, the high emotions, the flow state, all of that kind of thing. And then the attachment to it is exactly what it creates, exactly what you said. Then they just turn on everybody else. Right, very high in pride, and oh, you're not spiritual, and you're not spiritual, and you're not enlightened, and it's incredibly divisive.
Yes.
They're not nice to be around.
Yeah, it's like you go to Burning Man and someone's yelling at someone for driving a 8-cylinder truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't care about the earth, like we're before everybody does drugs and has orgies and builds a bunch of like sculptures. It just, you can see it becomes part of the culture of the judgment side, and then that's how cults always form. It's the judgment, right? Like it's like the star-bellied Sneetches. Do you know that one, Dr. Seuss? Oh no, I don't know if that was like basically like some Sneetches, these little fictitious characters had stars on their bellies and some didn't, and it's like how there's in-group, out-group based on if you had a star on your belly or not. And so the ones without stars would pay to get stars. The ones with stars then realize this is a scam. They can just get them, so then they erase them. And it's like it's always it actually, you've probably seen this yourself in different ways, I'm sure, but it's always relative because the power dynamic stays relative. So it's not really a principled thing. It becomes relative to this judgment. So because there has to be the higher group and the lower group. It's like alphas and betas, and that's how those kind of like culty worlds form. You have to have the people that are doing it right and the people that are doing it wrong. And then if everybody starts doing it right, then what's right has to change.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. Wow. I love that. And just see if there's. Welcome, Lunarverse. Nice to see you. Michelle's sharing a link there. I'm not sure exactly what that's to. Oh, and she found Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, so anyone can click on that, obviously. I think that one is, how many hours was that one?
It's like 48, I think.
48? Yeah. Oh, Beelzebub's. Yeah, this I know, actually. Pardon me, I was thinking about the other one.
It's 40-something if in reading time.
I think it was 48. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm 15 hours from the end of that one.
Isn't that an interesting correlation? Or is it not? Like the 48 laws?
Oh, right. Yes. Like, how could he even plan that? Because he couldn't have known it was going to take 48 hours to read out loud.
I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if it was engineered because of those music pieces. How did they decide? They're all different lengths as well. Maybe they were actually trying to get to 48.
I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Even to be the one reading that book aloud, you'd have to be fairly high up there. But yet be curious how they chose themselves around that. And acceptance is a big one, and it's beautiful, and it's necessary, and it's not a destination. Mm-hmm. I think that's another, to some people in their spiritual life, a kind of shock.
Yeah.
That we love acceptance is you feel like you arrived, you're done. It's one step away from peace. Yeah.
Kind of the flow. Acceptance is kind of like the flow state. It's like you're hoping to get into this place of permanent peace, which then defies existence itself.
Right. So would Gurdjieff say there is no permanent peace for a human being? Just to interrupt quickly, that Lester would say that he would call it happiness with no opposite. There's no unhappiness, but it's not a feeling of happiness. That's what, where he would also call it freedom.
Yeah, there's no mechanical feelings of permanent peace. That wouldn't be possible because they all are binary. But when you get up into as you ascend up the ray of creation, so if you get to the 24 laws, there is more freedom there. There is then you can have higher emotions of which there are no opposites. In at the earth plane, the biological plane, every single emotion has an opposite. Every single thing has a polarity, right? It moves, it vibrates, it oscillates, and it has to. So it's kind of like you can't have non-agitation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's literally built in. And that was one of the things in the release process early on. People would say, "Oh, I don't have any of that low side of the program left anymore." And it's like, no, package deal. And
Yes.
if you look carefully, you will see it's literally embedded inside that experience just for letting yourself feel.
And I could say something that's a little like metaphysical that kind of relates to this, and um and hopefully I'll make it in a way that's like palatable. So if you get down to like the basic level of physics that the hard sciences understand, everything becomes a perturbation modality, right? Like um, there is nothing without agitation. It's simply every single thing that expresses itself. Say if it's electromagnetism, right? You're looking at the agitation of another field. So you're not. So what that means is without that, nothing actually exists in this world in any physical way. So everything then therefore must be oscillating all the time. It's always in movement, right? It's always in the sine wave. It's just there are higher planes where that's no longer the case per se, the way that we're used to it. But as a human, the base of emotions, no, we can't just have infinite peace. And think about it. People try that. They call them opium dens, right?
Right.
And what
Exactly.
happens? Eventually, the person is completely destroyed, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. The pain is right there inside of that. And it's really a chase for pleasure. You think of
Yeah.
it as a chase for peace, but
But my point is like to have that constant. You know what I mean? I want the one constant note forever. That's my point. It doesn't. That's not reality. Reality doesn't work that way.
exactly. Yeah. 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 And if you look at it super deep, you see it is suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suffering is a sign of life.
Nice. Nice. I like that. That's a great reframe too. Lisa said, much better to not feel resistance to facing your own hard, flawed truth. Yeah. Yeah. It brings up a ton of resistance, which is its own source of suffering and compounded suffering we put on top of trying not to suffer. Right. So it's completely backwards. And in a way, we're setting up success, because if you could opt out or get out of the pattern interrupt and the suffering, then we would literally be getting out of our potential for freedom. What you're saying, right? Like that it's all oscillation.
And there wouldn't be growth. Yeah, because of freedom, you're not bringing the higher consciousness in. What you're talking about is the imminence of a higher consciousness, and it cannot come in without getting to that place, right? But in order to get there, every time you have to do that with someone, you're doing release work, which isn't pleasant. You see how it's
Totally.
like you can't just sit there and say a bunch of niceties to them and then have them like manifest all the awesomeness they want, and then it's like, oh look, I'm released. And that's what people think. It's like pleasure is going to lead to get to the higher plane, then therefore the letting go, what Gurdjieff would call sacrificing your suffering.
Beautiful.
Because the idea is that we actually, when we're still under the illusion that we can do and that we have all this agency, we don't understand that we have nothing. The only thing we do have is our illusion about our suffering. And that's the first and only thing we can sacrifice, is to start giving up the suffering that we're addicted to, that we don't realize we're addicted to, because as you know, we think we only want the high part of the program, which then inevitably evokes the second part. So we are in fact addicted to suffering.
Right.
Chasing pleasure is an addiction to suffering. That's what people don't understand.
Wow. Boom.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. I like the phrase sacrificing suffering too, because it's like making the suffering sacred.
Yeah.
Right. Conscious suffering is sacred suffering.
Yeah. Where you're not automatically doing it. It's intentional.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. You get out of that attraction, aversion, which Gurdjieff seemed extremely well aware of, right? We're always going towards what we want, always trying to stave off and prevent the suffering.
Yeah, which was it was known as the first force, which is going towards what you want. Second force is the automatic opposite that you've automatically evoked, baked into the laws of our universe. Then the goal is, most people are only first force aware at all. They don't even see the consequence. It's like you see that with your programming. They want peace or they want bliss or something. They don't even see the other side of the equation, right? Which is why it's so mechanical and it's such a roller coaster ride. Well, you can get to the point where you start becoming aware automatically of the second force at the same time as the first force. It begins to develop the potential to develop what's called third force sight. And he said most people are third force blind, but you can train yourself to see third force over time. And that's the neutralizing force, or also known in Beelzebub's tells as the reconciling force. And that's the one that has the two tied together. The same way that the positive and negative pole of a magnet are actually one. They're actually both sides of a force vector that's emanating outside of space-time.
Right.
Right.
Right. So that's the marriage of the opposites.
Yes.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the source of the marriage of the opposites. Is that it?
I've heard that said. I mean, they say that I've heard that said in a lot of Eastern teachings. I don't know if there's some stuff in the Nikayas that are like that from, the Buddha, from Gautama. I don't know who the original, it might be older than that, I mean, I think a lot of these teachings, because they're foundational, are actually thousands and thousands of years old, if not older. And we just have, like Ouspensky, when he first wrote The Fourth Way, the original name was Fragments of an Unknown Teaching. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I think, and it's very connected to alchemy, dealing with the poles.
Yes.
Yeah. And alchemy is, probably the most lucid of all of the disciplines out there looking for knowledge, because they definitely understand agitation and moving anything into a new state. It's going to require, if you want to, you'll have to break it down. You'll need heat and injection of energy to interrupt the pattern of that metal or that mineral or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, alchemy was an esoteric teaching. You see, it was a way of hiding what seemed like just pure chemistry, and really it was talking about working within yourself. So it's another type of esoteric teaching. And actually Gurdjieff liked to use alchemical reference. He would talk about, you take the beaker and you have the powders. He would say man is like, we're inherited a bunch of different metallic powders, and they're all shaken up and mixed in together like a sand, but there's tons of different ones. And then the idea was self-remembering was the flame. You talk about needed heat, the flame that goes under it that begins to heat it. You have to generate that in order to start melting them and fusing them together. The transmutation comes from that. And he would use the analogies like that, which are from alchemy. But the idea is that that's the part that we have to suffer through. We have to create the heat. We've been given all those materials, or we talked about the carriage and the horse the last time. It's like you've been given the elements you need, but you have to do the work to get your house in order, right? To begin the transmutation consciously.
Yeah.
Not automatically.
Exactly. So how would someone know that they are ready for this kind of work?
Well, in the Fourth Way, it's called magnetic center. And the idea is that there's no actual reason that you should do any of this. And if you're stuck, because if somebody goes, well, why should I do it? Am I going to get more in shape? Am I going to make more money? Am I going to be sexier, right? Whatever. Am I going to find a friend or circle or partner, whatever it is? So all of those are based on logic, and they're based on effect, right? And none of them are why you should do it. And most people are only motivated by that. Even when they come into the work, they might have a little magnetic center, but the false personality is driven by all of those things, right? So why they should do it is when they've when they feel a sense of disappointment or disillusionment with their seeking in life, when they felt, this idea um, was taught that man should become a good householder before he begins the work. And the idea of a good householder means you've achieved a modicum of success. Gurdjieff said you had to get equal with life. Like Morris Nichol lectured on this. Like you have to get to where you now feel like I've won life in some capacity. It's no longer a gee, I hope someday I'll have X, Y, and Z, right? You feel like I've achieved what life told me I should have. It's different for everyone. Somebody might need to make $1 million to have that feeling. Somebody might need to have a spouse and 3 kids, right? Somebody might need to have a number one selling song that they sold. But the idea is that you've finally gotten to that place and you're still hungry for something else. And you know there has to be something else, but you don't know what it is. And I would say that's exactly the type of person, if anyone should come to this work, and they would know it just upon being exposed to any of these ideas at all, because magnetic center would be activated. And it's, either it's magnetic or it's not. And, so these teachings, which contain what was known as influence B, which is whenever we try to crystallize the sacred influence C impressions or teachings, we can never keep them in their purest form because we're manifesting them in the physical. So they're only influence B, but somebody with magnetic center can tell the difference between an A and a B. For example, like the Gospels, all of the teachings of Christ, there's a lot of the influence C that was captured in those. And some people might feel a buzz or a charge around something like that, or listening to Beelzebub's tales, or any of these, or any esoteric stuff. It could be reading the book on alchemy, right? It could be something like that, where you're like, I know there's something here. There's a pull, right? And you either have it or you don't. To most people, it's just like the parable about the seeds. The seeds fall in different places. These esoteric seeds fall, and the sun comes out and burns them up. There's no soil to take root for most people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you probably know that yourself with your own work and many other things. There's a threshold of like what your average person can handle or is even interested in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the vast majority of people, they come in, they meet their threshold, and then that's it. There has been a number of people who've come and they have done what you've said, where they kind of won in life. Maybe they financially got themselves set up, and they learned a lot, and they worked and they produced, and they got everything that they were thinking they were supposed to get. They were told would lead them to a happiness of kinds, and then they come up kind of empty, and that's what pushes them to the next level. But even then, there's limits, I've noticed.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's is different. But if you haven't had some level of life success, you will still be seduced by the idea that there's a pot of gold on the end of the rainbow.
That's true. Exactly. Yeah. So so if it's left undone, then you're forever going to have that
chase. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People do that with romantic relationships when they've never had one. They think that this is going to complete me, and they're and all the Disney movies and stuff that people watch to program them to think that. So until they've actually had a relationship that like had some substance to it, they can't see that that's a fantasy that can never be fulfilled.
Right. And then you get that sort of idealism of spiritual poverty. And people think, oh, well, I don't need to accomplish. I don't need to work. I don't need to earn. I'm just being spiritual. It's just me and God. And then they're missing that whole piece of the pie.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Gurdjieff called a tramp. The tramp was the person that just kind of floats outside of life and says it doesn't matter and I'm good the way I am. And they don't really try to win or apply themselves to the game of life. They think they're going to cheat it by escaping it.
Right.
So yeah, so to come to this, it would be, you'd have to be hungry and you'd know you are. And a lot of people, they'll get a shock. They'll be into it until a shock comes, and then they go the other way where they back out. I've seen it over and over and over again, like where people come to it and they get so far, and it's probably just the same as when you're coaching people or doing your release work. They'll have some success, but at some point they might get freaked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people actually go quite a far distance on a trajectory. They get to that point, they have a shock, and then they literally undo it
Hmm. Yeah.
and won't go back into the release work and try to make it all like put it back Humpty Dumpty, put it back together
Sure, yeah.
again. And yeah, it's so it goes.
And that happened all the time within, Gurdjieff, his students, the people they were teaching. A lot of people would just fall out of it, but that's okay. Again, it goes back to only a few seeds are going to germinate.
Yeah.
And that's the way of nature. That's the way that the world is designed. Christ said, few will find the kingdom, right? Few, over and over again. I think 44 times he made a distinction that few people would find it.
Right. Exactly. And then Gurdjieff even went to a certain degree to make it inaccessible. Like you said, the
Yes.
design of Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, that most people will get turned off on the title alone and won't
Yes.
even open that book.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because they've got some spiritual conditioning in that.
That's right. Why is it named after a demon? I don't want to read this. Okay.
Yeah. Done.
Well, yeah. And I think, like, you're like, when you're working with people too, you can see that, like, you screen people a little bit before you
Totally.
take them on. Do you see what I mean? It's the same kind of thing. Like, I already know that you have to shake the weak hands out. You have to, like, it's just going to waste your time, right? So Gurdjieff would do the same thing. Ospensky, more. I mean, today, like, if you want to join one of the foundations that still exist that they set up, they're going to screen you and vet you. You're not just going to be able to join. It's like, wait, let's really make sure this person is dedicated and is hungry. And wouldn't you do that for a good business? Wouldn't you do that? You know what I mean? So it's also this weird fantasy that people have that things should just be easy. Isn't that funny? Like, the most important thing we think should be the easiest.
You're right. Well, that very word "free" can
Oh yeah,
seem easy.
there's no free in freedom.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, easy is a really interesting concept because most of us have conditioning, maybe on exactly both sides. The strong desire for ease, and then also the belief system that it's going to be hard. So the two ends up being a definite block to it. Like, how many people I have heard, oh, it didn't come easily, therefore it's not meant to be.
Yes.
And at that point, I just want to tell them to shut up. Like, it's not like that. If you're going for something purely purposeful, then you're going to face every obstruction to that. It's the hardest. The obstacles will come the hardest against that, because you're going against the basic nature of our design.
I think so. Yeah, and you're right. That's a cope that we have. As soon as it's like we tell ourselves, well, it's just not meant to be. I'm just not good at X, Y, and Z. You just have a special gene or conditioning or set of circumstances that I didn't have.
Right.
It's easy for you, Beth. For me, I tried it. It's impossible.
Right, exactly. And then even into that childlike, oh, the email didn't go through, therefore it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
This kind of like making meaning
Right.
out of it.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
Because one email didn't go through, it wasn't meant to be. Right. Because what does that really mean? You didn't want it to happen. You're looking for an excuse at a deeper. The false personalities are chiming. Hey, no, let's shut this down. Let's look for an out. And yeah.
Exactly. Kind of, is that the definition of a confirmation bias, where you've
yeah. I mean, if you found out that you got a letter in the mail saying you won some sweepstakes, giveaway for $100,000, and then you send an email and you didn't hear a response, probably send another email. You'd probably be making phone calls and driving somewhere, it's really that it's self-deception. We always tell ourselves, and this I learned from Stephen Chandler when I worked with him as a coach. He's a best-selling author, wrote The 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself that you see in like airports. He told me the biggest distinction is getting people to see that it's not the how-to that's ever the problem. It's the want to.
Right.
The want to bends reality. and we lie to ourselves with the how to. Well, this didn't work out, or I didn't know how. It's like, no, you weren't motivated because you didn't want to. And that's where that self-honesty comes in. Like,
Yeah.
what do you really actually want? And
Yeah.
being honest about it, which is, our world doesn't run that way.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's that whole world of coaching, and it's basically the messages you just have to want it bad enough. Oh, you didn't get it, you don't want it bad enough. And so I think there's truth in that. But when it comes down to it, like the wanting and the not wanting are your obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This would be how Lester would phrase it. Like, as long as you're wanting, you can't have. And even if you have something, but you're busy wanting it, it will seem like you don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the word, I think it's coming down to, if you want, it's like, the mind becomes a dangerous, it's kind of like a lawyer, and it's just trying to spin the case any chance it can. It's looking, the false personalities are sitting there like legal counsel, and they're just looking for holes, anything they can exploit. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be good or bad. Do you see? What do they want? They want the ruling to go away, right? They want the whole thing to be shut down. So they're just looking, hey, judge, will you dismiss this over this? It could be at any moment they see a weakness, they show up. And in the fourth way, it's because you understand that they feed off of your actual consciousness, which is what keeps you asleep, because they're clamoring to fight each other all the time to take the sense of your I, right? Your actual I, what remnant of it you still have in a sleep state. And so they'll use anything, good or bad. Like you're talking about, it could be the wanting, the not wanting. They'll use anything as an excuse. That's the point, is because what they don't want is for you to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And in when you're talking about they, now it's them and themselves, right? Like it's that internal kind of process. Yeah, I like how you say that about a lawyer. That's so poignant.
That's how they're good too. They're slick. They know exactly what to say to make you, the jury's going, oh, well, crap. Or the judge goes, oh, sorry. So, we're going to have to throw this whole thing out, And so any excuse, and they know all the tricks, right? They know you. The irony is they actually do know you better than you know yourself. They're the ones that have been running the show.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And we've made them an authority.
We made them an authority.
Yeah. We handed over the keys and the reins and let them operate the system badly.
And it is, in a way, it is like a court of law, because when you go in, what are you doing? You're really identifying with something, right? Like think about that. Like, you're giving away your agency. Even the fact when you hire an attorney, you are surrendering your agency. You're now considered a child or mentally incompetent. The same thing as when a woman signs when she goes in for labor. She's considered medically incompetent. The hospital is the authority.
Right.
You're doing the same thing, and you're doing it over and over. You're doing it in language. You're doing it with the way you present yourself in court. And that's why it works so well. Court works so well on the outside, but there's this inner court happening all the time. And they are very slick little attorneys that are running the show, and
yeah. That's almost literal right there.
Yeah, it might be literal. They might just be attorneys inside.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm way behind in the chat, you guys. I'm sorry, but at least.
Sorry.
That's no sorries at all. I like it. It's part of my multitasking nature. And feeling is flawed in and of itself. Yes, I would say. Now the word flaw. How would you answer this, Micah?
I think what they're saying is there's something wrong about having the feeling, a judgment. I think that's what they mean. Like, this feeling shouldn't be, or there's something wrong with it. Yes, I would agree. You're not, the first thing to realize is that you are not your feelings. That's part of this work, is to realize, like, you're not your thoughts either. But we say I to them, and people do that in release work with you, even with physical pain, right? Like, they are attached to even a physical pain, and you can help them see, where there's actually some separation that's possible. They don't have to, just because your back hurts doesn't mean that you have to completely identify with it. There's actually a chance to go for conscious freedom there, like you would guide someone to. So it's except there's nothing wrong with any of the feelings. You have to realize that they're all baked into the human experience. Like, you're going to have them. You're going to have all of them at some point. That's the whole human experience. I mean, animals have them, in different capacities. So they are natural. But remember, we learned that, like, we can serve nature. We serve nature when we identify with them, and we play the nature game. And if we begin to disidentify, accept that there's a higher self that's not beholden to them, we can gain access to it over time, and that's what the work is.
Yeah, exactly. And ironically, you can take much better care of your feelings from there, where you're less identified with them.
Yeah.
It's not turning away from them, neglecting them. That's all suppression. That's all trying to prevent the suffering that they bring up. So yeah, and then I like the discussion of the true nature. Like, what is the true nature of feelings? Is it identification? No. Are we supposed to literally identify ourselves as those feelings? No, I think that's not the true nature of feelings. If you want to describe the true nature of feelings, it's just moving energy.
Well, when you start to see it that way, then you're not attached to it.
Yeah.
That's where you're cycling, like in your work, is you're getting someone to see the spectrum, where they're energetically at, and realizing that it can be mobile and fluid. It's not like this permanent. What happens with our feelings and stuff is we always believe immediately they're permanent. That's kind of our base, whatever it is, good or bad. We're in euphoria. Oh my God, this is so great. I mean, that's the fantasy. We want that permanently. That's the fantasy we're raised with. And then when we have pain, it feels like it's infinite. It feels like, oh, this is always, or if we're depressed. And I think that the mechanical part is not seeing that there's a choice. It doesn't mean turning them off. Like, remember the first thing to realize is that you're powerless. That you've become so asleep to all this that it's running the show. It's driving you. And you have to first wake up to that. Like, wake up to, oh, I haven't been in control. I have been a victim of even my own thoughts and feelings because they're not me. But that's where sleep becomes a confusing and triggering concept, because people have a distinct sensation of not being asleep. They have a very distinct sensation of it, of thinking that they're conscious. Which the moment you think you're awake, it almost certainly means you're not.
There you go. Watch for that sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. We're back to multitasking. Jackie said, trouble with me, I'm a multitasker and have loads of books to read, so prefer to unread. Yeah. How many people have like 12 books on the go at the same time? And I'm preferring to listen these days as well, for that exact multitasking reason. And the first link was to Gurdjieff's Fourth Way audiobook. Okay, that's great. Yeah, because I haven't read that. That's Uspensky's, I guess, right? Yeah. And Maya has a question. Has Micah mastered Gurdjieff's sacred dances?
No, actually. In fact, I've never personally done them. I'm going to be meeting with some people that facilitate them in New York, and probably going up there to check that out in person. Okay. But no, that's the one thing I have no experience with at all. I've seen it, but I haven't. And I've talked to people that have done it, and that are kind of more skilled and practiced at it. So I know that it's a very potent thing. If you watch the movie that they made, Meetings with Remarkable Men, there's actual footage of people doing them. And then I think if you go on YouTube, if you type in Gurdjieff dances, there's some stuff where Jean de Salzman, which was his kind of lifelong closest student, she was teaching the work in New York. And you can see, if you're curious and you want to see what it kind of looked like, there is video footage of it.
Yeah, Fear in the House of Free Will. I think one of the Life of Gurdjieff, or however it was, I shared in that thread there. I could find it again if anyone asks me at a different time. What was I just going to say? That yeah, Lots of stuff to have to go on. What was it? Oh, yes, just about pattern interrupt and the physical movement. So obviously, Gurdjieff had a strong value for using the physical to interrupt patterns. And so how does that work, do you think? Like how does that contribute to the psyche to interrupt the body's patterns?
He often described the psyche as like the gramophone where the needle goes exactly where it's carved to go. That's like at that time a good example of programming or mechanicalness, pre-computer. And the shocks are to do something. The idea is that it's only at certain moments can you even have a chance to change something. And so, like, in his group work, the person that would be the leader, the teacher, is higher up the scale of consciousness and able to help facilitate the person at the right time by giving them the shock. You can't just give the shock at any time. It has to be, structured at the right time. But pattern interruption causes consciousness. And you'll notice it like there's a brief moment when your pattern gets interrupted that you feel a heightened sense of things. It can be painful, but the hypnotic lull that you're often in gets broken. This is very easy seen in tragedy. When people have tragedy happen, like a surprise tragedy, there's a heightened, I'm not talking about adrenaline. It's like there's another awareness that you can experience sometimes where life feels a little more vivid and you feel a little more present when something, sometimes when you're very, very ill or sick, this happens too. But there's actually an exercise. I don't think we've talked about this. Have we ever talked about the stop exercise?
No, but go ahead.
Well, the whole purpose. So like so the stop exercise would be when the people like we're doing the group work, there would be a teacher.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So they would give a command. It could be the teacher just yells stop. And at that exact moment, everyone was supposed to freeze exactly where they were, no matter what they were doing, with their body, with everything. And the idea is that if the stops are conducted at very key times, there are going to be awkward times where your body is not in the right place to hold it very well. It might be the way you are breathing or the way you're moving, or even emotionally. There's something there that he could see you needed to reflect on. And by creating a stop, it kind of forces like a new it forces a new awareness. Am I okay? It forces a new awareness, bringing consciousness to like, what was that I was feeling right there? What's my body doing? And so those shocks were designed to happen completely by surprise. So they wouldn't work if you knew they were coming.
For sure.
And sometimes they could be really awkward situations, like the person might fall over from it, or there's the story in the In Search of Miraculous where the guy almost drowns from it because the river's going up and he yells stop and he's crossing a rising river, and he waited for the water to even go over his nose before he told him he could be released. But there is something to that where you're being shocked. Now you're being forced to look at where am I? What am I doing? One of the things that happened too with people working with him like that is they would become aware that he could yell stop at any time. So they would never put themselves in a way that they couldn't hold the position, very well. But the interesting thing about that is, what is that doing? Well, it's forcing more consciousness.
Right.
So even trying to avoid this stop, even trying to avoid it means you're becoming more and more aware of yourself all the time.
It reminds me of the Bible and the second coming. You'll never know when Christ is coming, so be prepared at every moment.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was actually talking about.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting because I think one account I heard from someone, or not from someone, just reading about it. They were holding a very hot cup of tea, and they ended up with severe burns because they didn't put it down. In the process.
And some people really were upset about that and thought that he was abusive over that. But regardless, I don't know. I mean, that's, I guess, for someone else to decide. But we're often unaware of everything that's going on in our being, our body, our emotion, our intellect.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because that person never was liberated of their choice. They
Mm-mm.
sat there allowing themselves to burn
That's
and
right.
blister
That's
under
right.
under the heat. This was something, did I tell you this yesterday? I told someone this story yesterday, but not on my podcast. So I was working with someone in the south of India and a yoga teacher. They didn't really speak English, so there was no instructions. It was all physical. They would grab you, they would,
Mm.
muscle you,
Mm.
they'd sit on you, they'd, literally wrestle you to the ground and tie you up in knots and everything like that. And it had a certain abusiveness to it.
Mhm.
It was strong. It was intense. I would, for like 30 days in a row, I cried every time he did it.
Yeah.
It would bring me a shock. And then I went and I started finally processing it and understanding that, okay, yeah, it really seems like this big guy is sitting on me against my will. But I just started to see my own agency and see how, like, I'm the one showing up every day. And am I doing this to myself? I'm starting to think, am I doing this? So I came to like quite a deep revelation realization of it. For the next 30 days that I went in a row, he never again physically shocked me.
Yeah.
Not once.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just like, wow, that's what I'm doing to myself when you project on a teacher. Now they can be abusive.
Oh, sure. And that's again, cults form that way. I mean, the power, they have immense power when you're trusting someone. Anyone seen as a teacher does. But sometimes the shock is needed. And I think Gurdjieff was a master of that, so much so that some people thought that he was malicious or abusive. But I don't think he was. I just think he was so skilled at it. He knew where people's sore spots were. I think I told you maybe, but they in that CS Not, the People's Journal, um, there's when he first got to the school, he was more of a privileged, rich kid, so had a good life and all that. And Gurdjieff, he was expecting to be taught and getting these lectures, and he just gave him a shovel and told him to dig. And he would dig, and he was digging for he dug this giant hole, and he was not used to that kind of labor. And then after he did, Gurdjieff told him to fill it back up. Like a 12-foot deep hole. Something that took, and eventually he got to where he was bleeding profusely. All the skin was gone. His back hurt so bad, and it was on the third day that finally Gurdjieff came out and he said, "Oh, you know how to dig now. You dig no more." When he finally surrendered to it, he needed to have this experience of
Mhm.
really pushing himself to like a breaking point to get in on that false personality, that ego. Kind of like, I mean, think of it this way. How many times do we have to have a tragedy in our world to wake us up?
Mhm.
Now, does that mean God is a psychopath?
Right. Right. Exactly.
You
Yes.
see, or you as a parent, there were times, I guarantee you, that you had to give a little pain in some way through whatever, through words, through discipline, it doesn't matter, to your child at a certain point, because otherwise they weren't going to get something that's formative.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were in the car yesterday and Liam's driving and he's developed quite a road rage.
Okay.
And he's very happy with himself, knowing how stupid everybody is and all of that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
in all humor, I'm not gonna challenge it. But all of a sudden, then he's in the rage, and I'm in the car, and I'm like, time for a pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
Everybody's safety here, and yeah, it's nuanced because if you come in and you smash them, then they've got you to smash against, or to resist and fight with. So
Yeah.
how to interrupt people's patterns, this is like the next level of nuance. And this is something that I definitely help people to get the skills of and train them as a coach, how to interrupt people's patterns without making yourself the subject.
Hmm.
Now, it's not a guarantee that they're not going to create you or project you as the subject of the
Yeah.
shock,
Yeah.
but how do you give them the most chance possible?
That takes a lot of consciousness and a lot of awareness, and it's like an art form. And that's where everybody's different. Some people need more of a stern direction at times. Some people need softness at times. It's not all the same. And that's also why with the work itself, there's no protocol, there's no formula, and
Exactly.
there can't be, because everybody was different.
And changing over time, no less.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, I just wrote the words no policy, like you said, no protocol. There's no plan for this.
Mhm.
And there's people that they don't have enough self-concept. You're literally in the process helping to build them up to
Mhm.
have a stronger personality, a stronger identification, a stronger embodiment. And then there's other people that they have a lot of that and need to
You're
go
trying to break
the
them
other
down.
direction. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a kind of disappearing act for the helper, which again goes against all of our natural ideas about healers, that they think they're coming in to work on you and they're working on your unconscious and they're
Mhm.
doing this. And this process is one of sitting as far back as you possibly can, never indifferent, never not present, but also being the least amount of interference that you could be.
Yeah, and as a teacher, and I've had incidents too where many times you would see a student working on a project, and you know where the problem is. You could tell them the problem. You're only going to trigger their insecurity and defensiveness. You can teach them the principles so that when they finally have the disaster that's coming, they could like digest it. But you know that they need to have that disaster, because otherwise, um, there's no wisdom yet. They haven't learned anything yet. The wisdom is only experiential. It can't be theoretical. You know what I mean? There's that piece of you participating, and that's hard. You're like, well, I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want this to be. But so there's the nuance of how can I let you make these mistakes and have pain, knowing you are going to suffer, but you're so stubborn, you have to. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a nuanced thing, and then they can say, you knew this would happen afterward, and it's like, would you have listened? Like now you know. I told you, like, it's like you can warn someone, but then many times I don't know if you've done this, but I've seen it in romantic relationships where somebody gets excited about a new relationship. You see the warning signs very, very quickly. You might ask them some questions like, hey, have you noticed this, or what'd you think about that? You can see that they're in denial. So what do? The only healthy thing to do is let it happen.
Drive your car into the mud and sink it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. It's like, yeah. Okay, so I guess because and it's sad. It's like, well, you know that it's bad for them, but what can you do? I mean, you're not. It can be hurtful to try to help when someone's not ready,
Yeah,
and cause more damage.
exactly. And you make yourself a target, not just out of self-protection, but that's their energy that they're going to use, further depleting themselves of their resources to hate on you. So,
That's right. That's right.
you're actually serving them, not to give yourself up in that way. Yeah, it's tricky. We were releasing on reward punishment, that dynamic that humanity mostly is under, that kind of mechanistic spell of reward and punishment, and then the means to control a child, to punish them, to offer them rewards, to withhold rewards.
Yeah.
I couldn't participate. It was so painful. It was so dishonest. It was gross. I felt sick about it. Like like somebody's going, oh yeah, he needs to use the toilet. Get some candies so that you can. Like I'm just like, oh, yeah. But then I have to hold them back. Like both feel weird, to give and to hold back. It just didn't work. People threatened me that my son was going to turn out bad and spoiled and have, but he's basically learned to put those controls on himself.
Yeah.
Without reward punishment.
Yeah, we definitely are addicted to reward punishment. We're conditioned for it. Our whole world operates off of that punitive, like systems, and it's also where people no longer have the autonomy. So if you're saying your son learned to do it himself, you'll develop autonomy when you're not motivated because of someone else's authority. You see, that's the thing. Like, I have to do this because it's the rules, it's the law, it's what the authorities want, and you don't have any agency at all in that. you're just as helpless as it gets. I just have to do whatever, I'm told to do. And those types of people, the more you do that, the more you weaken the sense of self. And then the person becomes almost incapable of like maybe being an entrepreneur or somebody that can self-initiate or, do something.
Exactly,
Yes.
which is why it's so rare.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Very good. All right. I lost control of the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where are they at now? What's everybody asking?
Yeah. It's always interesting to see. And then I actively invite it, so I don't want to ignore. But you agree, it's an ongoing, evolving process. I think that's one of the really hard things too, that people, and just from some observation on how the creator course ended that you're part of, also hearing so many people come to that place of the revelation, like this is for the long haul. This is not just the work of a lifetime, probably.
Yeah.
And it goes, settle in to the process. Yeah. I was, you might not have heard it yet, but I'm thinking, like, should we create a 100 club of people that have that sense? Okay, they're settling into the work for the long haul, and they're just going to do it.
Yeah, you could. I mean, that I can see some people wanting to keep that going, the momentum. I mean, you have people more like-minded helping each other.
It makes a massive difference, right? Where would what have you seen with that when people have community and others to work with? Because Gurdjieff wasn't really working one-on-one with people. He was always seeming to be with a group.
He did group work. He liked to get groups together. He would talk to people sometimes one-on-one, like when the time was needed, but yeah, he preferred to always have groups. And I think he had mastered that dynamic of mixing energies and using people to antagonize each other in ways that could be useful. Me personally, I mean, I think that there's value to both. It depends on what you're doing. Sometimes at some point you're going to need the one-on-one, like even in groups. So like when the teacher or the leader, they see what you uniquely need, and they may need to confront you about that or give that or facilitate that to you. So I don't think I think at some point there has to be a one-on-one moment at times. But groups can be nice. Groups can also be distracting. You have to have, I've noticed with groups, I think you have to have good leadership.
Yes, absolutely.
Because otherwise it turns into a party, or, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, hanging out or something, like any type of group. Yeah, it can become very inefficient, just socializing. And that's certainly not productive.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with leadership. This is one of the things I was going to talk about, just how people consider an interruption to be a distraction away. And maybe we've already talked about this, but if you're familiar with Jacob Lieberman, his teaching is kind of an interesting inversion to that, because rather than feeling like every interruption is a distraction, to receive it, to allow it to distract you, to allow it to capture your attention, rather than trying to, we're all trying to filter out the advertising or the billboard or the noise, or drown it out and focus on something. He would say, no, actually open your awareness and your consciousness, allow all those things in. But he does flip it in a give it a sort of spiritual ism, and then it's the idea that you're not bothered by the interruptions.
Right.
But you want to be bothered. You want to be honest that you're bothered, not try to like just gloss over, spiritually bypass that.
Yeah, that's good. That's kind of akin to like the idea of the fourth way being practiced in life, knowing that the life becomes the material. Can It's kind of like when you get into meditation, like if you're doing like seated meditation, you can get to that point a lot of time, like with enough practice, where you're starting to alter your state, you're starting to drop in or open up. But the moment a sound, you know, there's a truck outside or a plane flies over or someone move, whatever it is, it takes you right out. Well, then that showed you that that's not something you can take with you. When you, not that it's bad, it's just the point would be to get to where even interruptions are okay. Like you said, you almost welcome them. And that's very much what the fourth way was. I mean, there's a place for silence. There's a place for peaceful meditation. It's not like you should always be interrupted all the time, but you start realizing that that's life. I mean, imagine when the negative setback happens, the tire blows out, or you get the big electricity bill or whatever, and you're completely okay with it. Like,
Yep.
oh, here's a challenge of life. This is life. This is this one stung a little bit. Crap. Why is my electricity bill tripled? I wasn't expecting that, you know. But instead of identifying with the disruption, oh no, my day's ruined. You know what I mean? We go in those programmed patterns. We're very mechanical about that. And you know, most people are having a mechanically good or bad day almost every single day.
Yep. Yeah, great point. Exactly. Yeah, my teacher in India, he used to take people to the busy road, the smelly road with massive trucks going by and kaboom, crash and lots of noise and literally to demonstrate that exact thing. Because anyone can meditate in a cave while they're all alone and quiet and there's nothing going on. I was joking to my son yesterday. I feel so enlightened when I just stay in my house and my world.
Yeah.
And then I go outside and it's just like shock.
Yep. It's like, oh wow, I'm so great with my social skills as long as I'm alone.
Yeah. I know I'm really good at relationships as long as I don't go out with anyone. Yeah, exactly. There was a question from Diane, not understanding how saying understand is how saying you understand is a concern. Do you want to talk more about that? This is a really good one.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a good pattern interrupt because we're addicted to the feeling that we understand things. To say that you understood this work is immediately cheapening it. Like it would be like here's an example or analogy. You want to learn differential equations in math. You have not yet learned algebra. You go to a lecture on differential equations. And then because you put a couple of pieces together, I had some aha moment. You're like, oh, I understand differential equations now, right? It's like the fallacy is that we get some little glimpse of understanding, then we think that we understand something. The point in the fourth way is that understanding itself is the greatest force that you can generate. It's ultimately what love is. And it's immensely difficult. You don't even have the capacity to have real understanding yet. So to say that you do is a cop out for yourself. It immediately takes you out of the, just like if someone said they've mastered your work, Beth, because they heard you talk about it one time or something.
Yeah.
And then imagine the scale is much bigger than that. It's like, well, oh, okay, yeah. You know 3 facts about frogs that doesn't make you an expert on amphibians.
Right.
You know, there's that. And so, but there's a seduction to understand. We want to feel everything comes down to people have a sense of certainty that they get. This is where religions are quite powerful because we understand everything. I know what happens when I die. I know what happens when I do this good thing or this bad thing, or when I put this hat on or this outfit. And it gives a certainty that's a complete illusion that's not there. That sense. And it feels like you understand something and it's a trap.
Well, this is the hinge that both certainty and uncertainty are in the realm of feeling. They are experiences. They're on our maps.
Yes.
And so we mistake certainty, which is really just the masculine side of uncertainty, to two things that flip. So there's no real certainty. You always are going to have uncertainty in that mix, whether you admit it or not. And so by turning certainty into understanding, that's mangled. That's because if understanding is love, it's not a feeling.
Correct. The true understanding is a force that is beyond feelings. And it's what we can aspire to in the work. But we like to tell ourselves we understand all kinds of things that we don't. It's a misuse of the word. Just like don't we do that with love? I mean, love is so perverted that Gurdjieff didn't even want to use that word.
Yeah.
Because it's not because it isn't true, it's because we are so mechanical with the word love and it's so watered down. It means nothing. It really means nothing.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
sad. It's sad that it shouldn't. It should be the greatest thing ever, but
Exactly.
it's so abused, so overused, and like just break it. That's a pattern interrupt there. Stop using that word love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. It's the same thing with freedom. Like any word, you can become
yeah.
totally mechanical
Yeah.
in its use. Yeah. Yeah. I see that with the word freedom too.
Yeah, it could. And then you'd have to become aware, like, oh, I've become mechanical with this. And all things in our reality become mechanical. Inevitably, that's part of the laws of the 48 laws of our reality.
Exactly. And the work itself becomes mechanical, which is why
Yes,
if you're in it for the long haul, you do
that's
have to
right.
find ways to make it new again.
That's
And
right.
sometimes they'll say that could you look at this program like you've never felt or seen one before, like it's absolutely new to you, and go into that experience with a
Yeah.
beginner mind. Yeah, yeah, because we already are projecting. Oh yeah, I know that, and then I welcome it and I let it go, and it becomes just mechanical. So. And Diane had a breakthrough. I wasn't sure if that was before or after what we're talking about. You like your Telegram hopium dens? Speaking of Telegram, come and join me there. I always forget to tell people about the King Hero chat. So that is a nice place to check in. I'll just share that little address there in the chat as well. Monotone hurts your head, indeed. And Carmon has a question: how to transcend samsara? Do you want to take a pass at this? Or a follow-up question, or at least how to acquire control over the mind.
Yeah, samsara. So, um, first thing to realize is that what we think of as our mind is not our mind. All the teachings, all the fourth way esoteric, all esoteric teachings are in fact psychological. But what we associate as psychology is actually the mechanical parts of our personality. We actually think that things that are automated and completely uh, disconnected from consciousness are our consciousness. We say I to all the wrong things. So the escape would be, first of all, to accept that you can't escape samsara in this sense that, oh look, I'm somewhere else now. I'm not here. Like I go into a meditative state and I bilocated and I'm somewhere else. I think and I'm not sure that's what you meant by that comment, but that's kind of the seduction, is to think that we can escape reality. We descended into reality to then take control of our agency through the cultivation of consciousness. That's the highest calling, the pursuit of the kingdom of heaven. That you can only do while being embodied here. So it's a great gift as well as a struggle to be here in this very difficult school of consciousness known as the earth, with its 48 laws. And so wanting to escape it would be that the exact thing we talked about, like where you're aspiring to something that, like peace, infinite peace, infinite, because that's what people really want. I want this infinite peace. I don't want to be caught up in all this life stuff. The earth is a mess. Life sucks. I get it. I want the other. That's not what awakening is. The awakening is to become aware that you are asleep in it, and once you realize that you're asleep and that all of the what you're calling samsara is simply the sleep state, the wheel is going around and around mechanically because we're identified with it. And at first we have to realize that all we know is identification. We only know how to identify with mechanical feelings, which are both binary, positive and negative. True feelings that come, or true emotions in the higher emotional center, do not have opposites, and they do not feel the same way that are mechanical ones, and they also cannot be described in words. And so so our job is to embody that and to begin to have more and more moments seeking towards that until eventually we can bring that down and manifest it in this reality. But it's not about this reality. This reality is a means and not an end. We're not trying to sculpt up the earth to be this heaven. We've come here to learn a lesson, to have a chance to learn it in a very unique way, which is to be completely mechanical and asleep, and they have the experience of pursuing becoming conscious and awakening. And that's it. That's the highest calling. If you have magnetic center, maybe that resonates with you. And if it doesn't, enjoy your life. Right. But that's
on.
What's that?
Carry on.
Yeah, carry on. I mean, and that's not to like dismiss your question. It's a good question. I'm not saying you asked a bad question. It's the idea that we're seduced that we can escape the suffering. What Buddhism has become, which is, I think, a perversion of the original teachings, if you study the Nikayas, which very few people have, you'll see that he was actually basically teaching the same thing that Jesus was. But it's become, how do I not suffer? Right? Isn't that basically it? I mean, in a lot of Eastern teachers, I'm sure some of the ones you may have even met in India have that same proclivity.
100%.
Yeah.
The whole thing is to transcend samsara, to get out, to escape the suffering.
Yeah.
And what do they do by escaping the suffering? Is they cause great suffering.
So in the fourth way, the goal would be to understand suffering.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very different. Exactly. Because as soon as you try to escape samsara, it literally is magnetizing it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
In that law of the forces, what you called, right?
Yeah. You're spinning the wheel for sure. Then that's how the wheel spins. You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes it go. And remember, that's what feeding the moon is.
Mm.
And that's why we're here to feed the moon, unless we choose to wake up. But very few people will. So in the parable of the seeds, most of the seeds become food for something else. Right. Eat or be eaten. So if the seed gets eaten by a bird or a worm, that's what it was meant to do, that it served its purpose. But if the seed had that inkling to germinate, to become the tree, the oak, right, whatever, then that is also meant to be. But most seeds are not meant to do that. And that's the design of nature. Man mechanically is designed to do that. We are designed to serve nature in that way, serve samsara, make the wheel move. That feeds the moon.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah. And then controlling the mind is a totally different thing. Like that, this would be, I think they were kind of onto it. My teacher in India would say that you can stop a jet airplane midstream at however many kilometers an hour it's going, but you cannot stop the thinking of a human mind.
That's right.
And so then you stop trying for that, which inevitably agitates the crap out of the mind. When you try to control it, when you try to suppress it, it acts out.
Yep. What you what you resist persists, right? And yeah, so the first thing to gain, so with magnetic center, you come to the work. That could show you that there's influence, but you can detect there's something special, sacred, otherness I'm drawn to inside of this knowledge. Then we begin to develop observing eye. Observing eye is when several of our false personalities that actually are connected to our essence. Remember, they're not all bad and evil. There are good eyes and bad ones. And there are neutral ones, like walking is a neutral one, right? Driving your car. So they're not all evil, but two or three, just like it says, where two or three come together, there I am with them also. They begin to magnetize. They clump together and they form what's known as observing eye. They start working together to start noticing what the good and bad eyes are. Through that process, the separation begins. Then that's when we get into the idea of what's called the deputy steward, right? The deputy steward is when now we've identified the good and bad, we're actually beginning to take action to separate and pull energy away, releasing them, developing more consciousness. And once we've gotten that part down, the deputy steward gets replaced by the steward. The steward actually has some agency to begin killing off and getting rid of the bad eyes. You do not have this power. This is why Gurdjieff said, no, you cannot do. The human as we naturally are, we can't actually do. We can't stop the thoughts. You see how, like, that your teacher was right.
Yeah.
At our base, we actually can't. First, it's like acceptance in a 12-step program. We are powerless over our addictions, right? You have to see, oh my gosh, I haven't been driving this at all. But you can become awake to the fact that you're not in control, which is the first way to even begin to bring consciousness, which can lead to control later. So then the steward, once you're at that level, the steward's actually killing stuff off. You're actually beginning to get the house in order. Once the house is in order, the master can come in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the higher emotional and higher intellectual. That's the master in the carriage of the ancient Vedic analogy, right? The master can then speak. The master now has agency. Now a man can do. But until at that point, man cannot do. You first must accept that you cannot do, that you do not understand, which is extremely humbling.
Exactly. And it goes the opposite of the conditioning that we're trained for, to go out and, really be somebody and do things and have confidence in yourself. How many people come to me, that's what on their top 10 list, they want to have confidence. And it's like, no, actually, that's a feeling, comes and goes. Usually have it after you accomplish something. So it's not something to hinge anything on whatsoever. Yeah, that point of humility where you just see that it's unworkable. There's literally, left to its own device, it's not going to evolve. You're not going to grow. You're not going to change any patterns.
Right.
And that's they will go on and on into infinity.
And you could be mechanically successful. This is the important thing to realize. Like, people say I to their success or their failures, and in fact, you're not doing either one. From this understanding, it would be even what you perceive as your hard work and your effort was mechanical.
I know. Yeah, the story in the Bible of the brothers, I guess it was the prodigal son, and then the one who worked so hard to, all out of virtue signaling, and the father recognized that was not actually winning.
It was still mechanical, right? And he was good, and he did do good things. He did all the things. It was still mechanical. So that's good that you caught that. That's exactly what that means.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Michelle said, I love the marriage at the opposite's been really great exercise. Never gets old or outdated. I know that these things are so timeless. It's unbelievable. And not going to lie, I'm partly resisting this information because I guess you could say I have an aversion to suffering, which good. It's good that you know that, right? If you denied that, then there's nothing to work with.
See, that's self-observation right there. What did you do? You're noticing how you mechanically reacted to something. You're seeing that something doesn't want you to do it. That's self-observation.
Yeah. Who must you be to observe that?
Yeah. It's like you could be addicted to something, smoking, drinking, cupcakes, whatever it is, and you could realize, oh my God, I can't stop this at all. Because most of the time people think they can quit anytime they want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's the same kind of thing. Like, wow, I feel this. I need a cupcake.
Yeah. Now I really want a cupcake, Mike.
Yeah. What vitamin A cupcake?
Yeah, exactly. God, could put an extra helping of nickel on top.
Yeah.
We won't go there quite yet.
No.
We're still assimilating. But Lisa said, could you picture a third force sight, light, location as vibration, like your third eye, or imagine something? To remind yourself to find the still center, or is that too abstract?
No, I mean, those would be the example of you're trying to set alarms for yourself to create the shock to remember. That's fine. I mean, the first thing would be to accept that you can't see the third force. See, this is where the trap is. It's like, how do I remember that I'm enlightened or something? No. That comes with the mechanical assumption that you are. The first thing would be, I do not in my current state have the capacity to see third force. Surrendering that. The first step in self-remembering is to know that you can't remember yourself. That's all you can do. You see, the acknowledgement, I can't remember myself. Oh my God, I'm lost all day. Wow, I just spent 8 hours. I didn't even have a hint of self-remembering, right? And to become aware, I'm not doing it at all. I'm completely incapable. That's the correct path. And it's not beating yourself up. It's not a judgment. It becomes right? It's not a judgment. That's a trap. That's a ego trap.
Yeah, like whether you aggrandize yourself that you're fully understanding or you say you know nothing, those both can be exactly the same.
Well, you hear that a lot with people that have like they're in spiritual people. They're like, oh, I'm nothing. I know nothing. It's exactly feeding. It's like the shadow side of the ego. They're just feeding it in a different way. They're still identifying with that. It's still
Yeah.
creating an identity, just like beating yourself up does, right? Like you know.
That's it, exactly, and it's got a certain kind of payoff. In Lester's words, it was pride and reverse pride.
Mm-hmm.
Still pride. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same pride if you
Yeah.
shit on yourself or
Yeah.
self-deprecating, to say it more politely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa likes the wordplay. Michelle said, suffering with purpose is very different from suffering without purpose. This is the bandwagon that I get on. It's a shift in perspective. What you resist persists, so why not use it for you? Use it for yourself rather than against yourself. Amen. There you go.
Yeah.
Very well said. Hanging out with us doesn't count as just socializing. Yeah, we're blending. We're blending the worlds here.
Well, it's not that you can't be. It's that when a group setting happens, and you know this, Beth, from doing workshops and teaching, very quickly it goes into a state of just decay. That's what all it meant is like people get distracted, they get caught up in mechanical talk. Go to a mixer, like a business mixer, like where you're meeting and greeting people, and everyone has some agenda. They want something. It's, hey, where are you from? What kind of work do you do? And you can see the pattern. And the problem is that's just nature. So the idea is that in a group, we have a tendency to do that very quickly. And it's the pleasantries and the niceties. And it creates a high that people get is often when people go to church. They feel this buzz or high afterward, because they were kind of like fake for a little while and they pretended that everything was happy and good and everybody else is pretending it too. And it gives you like a little buzz and then it's back to life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Again, like totally seduced by the feelings. Oh, I have a good feeling.
Yes.
And I'm going to go back next Sunday.
We had a spiritual conversation. I mean, we could talk, we could get 100 people together and talk about this Gurdjieff work and we could all be jazzed and super high. Oh my God, this is so great. We talked about self-remembering. We talked about intentional suffering. We did nothing. That's understanding that the lip service doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Only the intention does, and the consciousness that you bring to it, which requires effort.
Indeed. Exactly.
And it's very awkward when I don't know, if you go to a social setting and you are really trying to be honest and conscious, it's awkward and people aren't going to like you.
They don't like it. No, I know. I have a lot of experience with that. Yeah.
You become the weirdo. You're a boring weirdo really, really quick.
Mm-hmm. Or at least annoying.
Or annoying, yeah. But no, you're not playing the sparkle motion game anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having strong deja vu right now. My goodness.
Oh.
We're on board with doing the work, and it's the word suffering that turns you away. Fair enough. Yeah. That's part of the deja vu right there too. Interesting. Okay. Whatever that is. Yeah, it's good. You just keep observing the way the mechanisms function, and because we don't even see how they exactly work. We don't know when they come in. It just is all of a sudden there the moment you come to, and like, oh, what's that? And you can start to watch the genesis. Sometimes, if you're very lucky, you can see something at a point of identification or a point of stuckness, or you see like, oh wow, my whole body just went into resistance when something happened, just got some news or whatever that is. So yeah. Very good. Let's see. There's so much more. Someone said, how was your time, Micah? You said
I'm good. I'm good. I can go a little over if we need to. That's fine.
Okay. Carmon was asking, why is it named after a demon, Beelzebub?
Why does that bother people? Read the book. There's a good surprise. I think Beth got far enough to know there's a reason for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you are so off-put that you can't read it, then I don't think you're the right person to read it. That would be. And I know a lot of people say that. They're like, I don't want to read this thing. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it was a big question at the beginning, and then I gave up trying to make it make sense, or even now. And you're reminding me that I'm not even wondering if I'm going to hear, like, why did he choose Beelzebub as a name, and is he really evil? Is that Lucifer and stuff like that?
It's
I
actually
totally
the Lord
forgot.
of Dung. It's the Lord of Dung.
Mm,
That's what the name means. Or the flies over the dung.
Lord of the Flies.
Lowest of the low.
Right.
There's a lot of significance, and I don't want to spoil it for people
Yeah.
that are actually going to. I wouldn't want to cheapen your experience. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. You have a really good sense that way. Diane said, how do we then decipher the difference between those who are masochists, enjoy suffering, and us who aim for growth through suffering? Excellent question.
Well, if you enjoy suffering, it's not suffering. By definition, that'd be like saying I'm that I experience love through rape or something. It's like it's if you enjoy the suffering, then it's just you're bent away to where what seems to be pain is pleasure to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same way that dogs like to smell horrible things that we can't be around, and they love it.
Yeah. Excellent point. Well said.
Yeah.
And let's see. I think there's some dress up stuff going on. JJ Hempcreep Bear was here, and Quietly Content Bear is here. If you still are, hello. And that's so nice to see you as well. I got these good folks. And Jackie K is always so generous, reminding people to like the video. That does definitely help. And Jackie, you said you taught pattern interrupt in NLP, but can't remember the details. Is there anything that you know about NLP or have any?
Yeah. I have
Yeah,
some experience with it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I did some work with it way long time ago. Yeah, NLP is based on pattern interruption to a degree, and then pattern creation. So it's understanding patterns, how they work both ways, and you're learning to take it. You're learning to do that in language, create new patterns, but you have to disrupt the old one. So it's an awareness of the fact that we are that mechanical, and then it's like, how can we use this to program new mechanics, which you can. That's why NLP works.
Right. And do you think that it is? I know I've asked you this before, but do you think it is necessary to create new patterns?
Well, sometimes for some things, but not for everything. Like if you were going to learn to take up archery, you'd probably have to learn a whole bunch of new patterns with your body,
Good point.
patterns with your. Do you see what I mean? It's not judging it because they're neutral. Like we said, there are many neutral personalities that get created. Um, there's nothing wrong with the pattern per se.
Right.
It's again, it comes to understanding what's it being used for, what's it doing, what's it feeding on?
Hmm.
Because some of them are pretty evil, and we don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. What's that driver behind it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And Michelle shared the Sacred Dance Hymn to the Earth. So thank you very much for that. And my Telegram channel, no less. Thank you as well. And some people can react violently to fear shocks. Absolutely. That's, I did that in my early days, like right away. I'd learn a little thing and then I'd be the teacher and then I'd go and shock somebody and then they'd react violently.
Yeah.
It's like, that didn't go well. Yeah.
We have we really want to be the teacher very quickly.
Because
And
it's so uncomfortable to be the student, right?
it really is. And we want to believe that we're there and we've arrived and we understand and we can do when we cannot do.
Yeah. And if you follow through with it, it will humble you because it will show you teaching will show you what you don't know
Yeah.
constantly if you allow that, if you're not there for the veneer of being the one who knows.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I said the teacher has to be aware to give these shocks, or do we trust the divine? Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's always a serious conversation with the creator when it comes to, okay, that there's a pattern, it's not getting interrupted, it's not
Mhm.
getting gently interrupted, and God,
Mhm.
can you help me with this next step if there is one, and tell me what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Asking for consent is a fantastic tool. Personally, I recommend, because once somebody has given consent, then they don't have you to push against. They just agreed.
Which is like you wrestling with your teacher. you're the one showing up, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Michelle said, Beth will often ask, may I ask you a question? Yep. Yeah. And then you need to be exactly open to the answer too. Oh,
Right.
no, it is? Okay. That's like literally.
Yeah.
Or okay. Hello, LeBrad, if you're still here. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Yep. Settle in, buckle up, enjoy the ride. Oh, I can't get this to show. There it is. What Mini Cooper owners say at the beginning of our rally. There you go. Yeah, some of the best experiences have come from being blindsided. Like nobody exactly wants that. The plot twists and the oh my God, what happened? And it can be utterly tragic and the losses are real, right? This is not to diminish or make light of this in any way. It's show stopping, heart stopping, breathtaking. Yeah. And said this is such a feast of mind, body, and soul. Thank you for being here. I totally appreciate it. And Michelle is also generously getting people to like and sub if that is possible. That would be awesome. Diane said, thank you. And Michelle said, at some point, you just have to be brave enough to take what certainty you do have and use it to move to the next step in the journey rather than continue dwelling and spinning in your wheels. Yeah. And you can actually not position certainty and uncertainty as any authority over you. Because that's exactly what people are sitting until I'm certain I'm not going to take action. I'm not going to commit. I'm not going to decide. I'm not going to anything. And you heard me, this all can come before deciding, commitment, even taking action. You don't have to base it on certainty or uncertainty.
No, I think and maybe something to add to that would just be if anyone's ever played like any kind of strategic board game, you if you have, and I don't know if you have or not, or but maybe somebody's at least played chess or something, or anything like that. You can become completely paralyzed by trying to figure out how to not make a wrong move, right?
Yes.
You don't know what your opponent's going to do. So you're only working with probabilities anyway, and you have to get into action. And oftentimes we think it's this perfectionistic thing, like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that. What did I not think of? Well, you're not going to think of everything. The first thing is to accept you're not going to think of everything. And you have to get comfortable with that because you have to accept the unknowingness. The undoing of ourself is the first thing we have to do. We have to become uncomfortable with unknowing a lot of things. And so in order to just like being an entrepreneur, you don't have all the rules figured out. You're not going to be perfect, but you have to have, like she just said, enough certainty to move a little bit forward. But then there's going to be the point where you don't know and there's risk. And I've been through this many times. People talk about this with investment a lot. What's guaranteed to give me a return on investment? Nothing. But that's what everybody wants. No. I want the guaranteed double on my money. There is no guarantee. No, but what's the thing that's almost certain? Well, actually nothing. Actually, but they don't. But and I'm telling you, that's how people talk about investment most of the time with their money. Mm-hmm. And anyone that's been around that world, you'll see that finance investment. Well, it's the sure thing. There is no sure thing.
Yeah, that's an addiction.
But we are addicted. We have to feel that sense of 100% certainty. There is none. Mm-hmm. I mean, getting comfortable with the fact that there will be hiccups, there will be curveballs. That's part of the game. It's like a dice game. Like there's strategy, but then there's dice, or there's cards. Which card did I draw? Right. That's part of the game, is that we aren't in control, and that there is through the law of 7, there is the entropic randomness where things mutate towards chaos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the uncertainty is in some ways way more fertile, being that feminine side, than the certainty is. Uncertainty is going to make you look, and your aperture is going to you'll have heightened awareness. You're watching for, I need some information, some code, something that's coming in here. Do I need to learn something? Do I need greater skills? And so there can be a lot of value in not trying to get rid of the uncertainty, which you can't anyway. It's archetypally built in.
Have you ever noticed when somebody gets really adroit, like at a skill where they've mastered it, it could be a sport, a martial art, it could be anything. It could be entrepreneurial skill. They don't care about the uncertainty anymore. That's just fun to them.
It's built in.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, cool. So they changed this policy or legislation in our entire, area my business was zoned for. They don't freak out about it. It's potentially devastating, but then they know not to be devastated. They know to look for, well, what's the opportunity? Maybe the opportunity is to walk away, but then that's part of the game.
Right. And what's the opportunity, and how do I pivot now based on this?
Yeah, but that's to function in this reality. Like, if you're going to have any success at all, you've already gotten comfortable with uncertainty to a degree, or you can't experience any actual like modicum of success.
Yeah, that's it. And then you need a decent strength nervous system to be able to cope with that energy of that.
Right.
Yeah. Hello, Artist here. I'm glad you made it live. That's awesome. Really good. And Annie D is here. Welcome. And just for the record, Beelzebub, the name doesn't bother Chiron. They don't judge books by the cover. Good for you. Good. That's step one. There's an inside joke going on there. I'll let you guys have it because I won't be able to figure it out. Something about trampy and dressing. So I think we got to the bottom of the chats that were for us. Although, let's see, Michelle said the last one. If you're going to invest in anything, invest in deprogramming all the clutter within. I would agree with that. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, I wonder if we've come to the end of this discussion as part of I forget to say this, but it is roughly the free seeing series. It's an arc, and there's one more coming up next week. I'm not sure. Do you guys want to know what it's about, or should I make it a surprise? See how fast I can. Okay, it'll be a surprise. I won't find that in under any time, but it's been great to have you here, Micah. If someone wanted to take you up on working either one-on-one and maybe, I hope you don't mind, maybe there's going to be some groups or a group coming up, which I would love to be part of. So,
yeah, we talked about that. If someone was interested in that as well, ahead of time, they could go ahead and contact me. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to put my email up in the notes, or and I'm also an active member in the House of Free Will, the Telegram group that Beth has. So those would be great ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, and so your Hotmail address is there on screen, and I'm going to put it in the chat too, so someone could. Oh, should I do that? Darn it!
Yeah, and if someone's interested, if we do, we're talking about having an online group. So
I just deleted
possibly. What's that?
Oh, sorry. I just deleted it quickly just so the bots don't get your address.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I realized it shouldn't sit there on.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. This is just an image that's not going to get picked up. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you. So Micah_Ellers@hotmail.com. And if you want to have any Gurdjieff discussions, Micah's very responsive in our Telegram chat, where we do meet. The House of Free Will is not a Telegram chat, but it includes two of them, one for the Love Your Liver study and one for a whole bunch of other topics. We've got technology and satsang and Gurdjieff and philosophy and all kinds of things going on there. The law, it's kind of quiet in the law side now. They had a lot of fighting it out for quite a while, and now it's nobody's saying anything. So maybe we agreed to disagree or something like that. And no bot formed against Micah's email shall prosper.
Thank you.
Yeah. We should connect offline. I always am open to that. It's a beautiful thing if it can happen. All right, my dear Swell, the last thing I'll say is that if you're not already connected with me and you want to be so, the first best way to do that is to sign up for a King Hero archetype quiz, where in 10 minutes you learn what the path of purpose is likely to look like for you, where you might get stuck in the shadows, and and what gifts are more available to you. So that's a great place to start. And if anyone, I want to make sure and let you know that there is an early bird on for my Journey Code coaching certification training, which I have a secret agenda. Maybe Micah would join us for that. Just saying that out loud. And then so if anyone wants to talk about that before the 30th, I am going to be away also from the 21st to the 29th. The guy is a genius, absolutely. And so if you wanted to talk about Journey Code, while it is the best possible investment, $1,300 savings, then please get in touch with me sooner than later, because we'll be away and it'll be a little bit harder to do that. And they're grateful for you answering all your questions. And yet you can find me on Telegram. Thank you again, Michelle, for all your generous sharing. And Lisa is grateful as well. And your sound got knocked out. Darn it. So you're going to wave goodbye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Micah. It's been fantastic.
Bye.
Lots of love to you and everyone. Good thing I saw his text there. Yeah. That's funny. And I'll just say for... And I am just going to mute Micah since he doesn't know we can hear him still. And if anyone would like to join the House of Free Will and be part of it, this is a link to that. It is by application, which I don't mind seeing a little bit about you and what you love and who you are and what you stand for, your values, before we get together in the House of Free Will and try to get along. There's a couple of courses. Also, if anyone was looking to do the deprogramming work but doesn't know where to start, this is my starter course. It is called Deprogramming 101. Teaches you how to navigate your emotional experiences and gives you an opportunity to see what are those, become the witness, and create an eye to see who you are, and to be able to work through emotions in a totally different way we should all learn in kindergarten. And hello, Mr. Thunder Chicken. That's nice to have you here. And he said, haha, I'm glad he didn't accidentally say what a bunch of idiots or something. That's funny. Yeah, I spared him. I muted him. So yeah, that's funny, Elise. I love your sense of humor. And there's also one of my other starter courses. If you're not ready for the very deep dive of, say, Journey Code or Creator Code, which will be available probably over the next month, I'll be able to make that into an online available course. I'll also be running that as another group at some point. I don't know exactly when, but this is a starter course in that direction called Find Your Sacred Purpose. It does give you the basics of deprogramming as well, knowing for those people that they cannot just simply sit back and be mechanical in their life, that they have to find the way to use their life and use their suffering as a means for sacred purpose. So that's a great course to begin that work. And I think that's all for today. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again. I won't tell you what the next one is because I don't remember offhand, but yeah, it's been fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Huge thanks to Micah for being part of this. And I will play you guys out as per usual. So have a beautiful rest of your day. I love you guys. And that is all for now.
Oh, my true guide, Lord and supporter of all, forever free from identity. Be well, I'm dwelling in you. Be well, I am dwelling in you. Purusha